Whether you have a baby or a toddler, you're likely going through the same thing that 90% of moms are going through: lack of sleep or complete exhaustion because of lack of sleep. And it's not because you're not going to bed at an early enough time or, your own body is waking you up in the middle of the night for no reason. No, it's not because of that. It's because of your child. And don't say to me, "Oh, my little Stevie is so precious. He's just a little baby." I have 2 children of my own. And let me tell you, the nightly sleep disruptions and the sheer madness of wasting 1 to 2 hours every single night of trying to put my toddler to bed turned me into a swearing sailor. But in all honesty, babies and toddlers who keep their parents constantly sleep deprived is a recipe for total disaster for moms on so many levels. And here are just a few that I see with my personal training clients. So tight. Guys, go to sleep! No, you're not! Hello, stress eating? Is anybody else up for a celebratory piece of chocolate or a glass of vino because you maybe finally, put your child to bed? Lack of sleep and increased stress means that our body is not focusing on those important things like recovery, C-section recovery, or if you have prolapse, helping our bodies heal from that, or even diastasis recti, and instead focusing on just surviving. So, in the interest of helping you to get a good night's sleep so that you can reduce your stress, so that you can lose weight if that's what you're looking to do, and so that you can focus on your body's healing, I'm interviewing the sleep consultant that I hired to help me get my toddler to sleep on his own. And she's giving you guys 6 tips to help you get your baby or your toddler to sleep so that you can get to sleep too. Hey ladies, welcome back. Today we have Vincenza Lind, and she is a senior consultant with We Sleep. She's actually the sleep consultant that I hired to help me with my toddler, my 2-year-old, and helping him to get to sleep, right? We had so much difficulty with him. So Vincenza, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us on the channel, because today you are sharing with us 6 very essential sleep tips in how you can get your baby and your toddler to sleep. So Vincenza, welcome. Please tell us a bit about yourself. And I'm curious, did you start this because you have 3 kids? Did you start this because you had issues with your kids sleeping as well?
Yes and no. I knew that I wanted to be a well-rested mom. And with my first son being a sick kid's baby, I was in the epitome of having no sleep. So when I knew in my heart that sleep was important for me and for him, and I did my own research and I found ways and the best way to get my kids on a proper routine, which I knew was best for his healing as well, I was just amazed, and it brought in this inner joy in me that I just wanted to share with everybody. And then come my second one, obviously one is very different from the other. Doesn't matter that they came from 2 people, very different sleepers. And yes, good and bad in different ways, but I feel like my pursuit of sleep really drove me to love what I'm doing now. Right. And then I thought out to become a consultant because I wanted to help moms the proper way, not just my advice that worked for me and my kids, because I didn't 100% know what I was doing. I know it worked for my kids, but I wanted some specialized ways that I could help more families.
Exactly.
And then I got pregnant with my 3rd one in the time. And then I basically, everything I learned and taught, I did with my little one. And he is actually a supreme sleeper, way better than my first 2. So,
and I think that's really important that you highlighted that. Yeah. Your first one was different from your second one was different from your 3rd one, right? So what might work, absolutely. And you've read this book and this worked for this child, that doesn't mean it's going to work for the next child, right? So
exactly.
Awesome. All right. So thank you for sharing with us your story. So let's get right into the 6 essential sleep tips that you've got for us to help us mamas get to sleep too, right?
Absolutely. So Tip number one, which is actually, I lecture this probably the most, is choose an early bedtime. Now, we all want our kids to be robots, I think, where they can go to bed anytime and sleep in till whatever time, but it's really further from the truth. They need to be in bed at a reasonable hour. So usually anywhere between, depending on the age, 6:30 to 7:30. And because that is where their natural circadian rhythm begins to create melatonin to wind their bodies down. And there's actually one sleep cycle, 45 minutes after that initial time that their circadian rhythm begins to work. And if they miss that window, that could create more wakes during the next sleep cycles and just make them overtired and wake up more often and wake earlier, actually, not sleep in more. So that's something that's super, super important.
I want to get real tactical with this one because I've got to admit, I've got a lot of clients who, and I talk with my clients and in my coaching business about sleep, as we know it's so important for moms when they're trying to lose weight and their stress is through the roof because they're not sleeping. So I hear so many times that my son goes to bed at 10 or at 9 p.m. because by the time I get home from work, by the time my husband gets home from work, and dinner and all this and all that. So give us some quick tactical things for when bedtime right now is 9 p.m. How do we slowly shift that down to an earlier time?
So I'm assuming you might be talking about a mom going back to work where they have a 1 to 18-month-old, right? Okay. Where, it can be difficult, let's just say, in that age range. This is where maybe Denise can come in, prep your meals, make mealtime really easy for you. So at minimum, you can get home, feed your child, as soon as they get home. And then, for a few nights, your dinner with your husband might be after your child goes to sleep.
Which is the best dinner, right?
That's true, right? So, thinking about having those ideal family dinners with a toddler is not always as dreamy as you think. So it's better you focus on your child getting their nutrition they need, and then you can eat afterwards. And begin a routine and get them in bed. Or depending on when you start work in the morning, your quality time with them might be more in the morning than in the evening. And that's okay. And it really is only temporary.
Yeah.
It's a small hump for when they're little. When they're older, I know activities fall into place. I think for a child maybe 3+ who's maybe still having a nap, 8 o'clock is reasonable, 100%. But 9, 10 o'clock is a little on the late side, I think. Establish some habits and warnings. We'll talk about the next few tips.
10 o'clock is my early bedtime. There is no way that I want to be up with my kid all day and then go to bed when baby goes to bed. That leaves you no time. So definitely, like you said, meal planning, making sure that you have your meals all ready so that, hey, baby's home, you're home, off to quick eat and then go to bed. So thank you. I want to quickly ask about what our dreaded time changes, right? Either fall back, spring forward. So how do we quickly navigate that?
So there are some tips. I think it's the one in the winter time. You could start to push bedtime a little bit so that when it does go back, it's not so bad. And then with the one going into spring, some families just kind of they wake them up in the morning earlier to the new time and just start fresh.
Right.
Or you could split the difference.
Right.
Well, okay. So they kind of act a little bit differently. I personally like the spring one over the winter because kids don't sleep in and it takes a week to, you're going to have to push into the new time for a nap. So it's longer stretches, but it takes about a week to adjust.
Oh, man.
So,
all right, let's get into tip number 2.
Okay, so putting your child to sleep in the same place every night is, it really helps establish their sleepy place where they're comfortable. It's a little signal, when you're done bath and then you get into the bedroom, they know this is where they're going to sleep. So if you start out in your bed or you start out in the car and you do that and you switch it up every so often, it can become confusing for your child. So really consistency is the key here.
Okay, so what about nap time? Do you recommend that they sleep in the same place in the crib at nap and at bedtime?
From a certain age, yes. The newborn stage, not necessarily. Like maybe you can get away with the first nap in their bassinet or even in the playpen.
On you. My baby just slept on me.
Yeah. In the newborn stage, honestly, I don't make firm rules. It's nice when I help those families. It's when they're really, really struggling getting them on a good path. Mm-hmm. But every day is so different. So newborn stage, not necessarily, but nighttime, you want it to be quieter. So eventually when they get used to days and nights, it becomes an easier transition when they know, like, it's dark, it's quiet, you're in like maybe sharing with mom and dad. Right. But like 3-4 months, you can absolutely start doing crib naps in their crib, as well as bedtime around that age, 3 to 4.
Okay. So what about moms who are like, I want to have a life. I don't want to have to be, chained to my home, or I got to go and meet my friend, or I got this class to go to. I don't want to be at home all the time when nap time. I'm fine when my, toddler sleeps in the crib or in the, baby stroller, or sleeps in the car or whatever. So I guess my question is, these tips that you're giving us to help us to get into a, good sleep cycle, how long should it take? If we implement all these steps, should it take a week? Should it take 2 weeks? What's kind of that time? Because I know that moms want to have their own schedule. So are you saying if we follow all these 6 tips for 2 weeks, let's say, then we're good to go?
Pretty much. So when I work with families, it's a 14-day coaching program. So I do encourage them to be consistent in those 14 days, because what you're doing is you're building a foundation, something that they can fall back on. If you do it every other day or every few days, they're not going to grasp it well enough where you can be flexible. So this isn't like, assigning a jail time by getting your kid to sleep in a crib. It really isn't, because once you have this established and it's a time that you're ready for, you really can be flexible. So you'll just see your child will get naturally tired at the times that you've normally kept them in their crib or sleeping. So then when you are out and about, you can have a nap in the stroller, you can have a nap in the car, and they'll wake up and you could still have your days where you're at home and they know what to do, and sleep isn't a struggle, and it shouldn't be, so. But the more consistent you are, the stronger of a sleeper you'll have. So you have to find that balance where, I wouldn't make plans every single day, but, you will have opportunities, that you're going to take, especially with the nice weather, and then being home for a good bedtime too, right? So, it depends on how much you want to prioritize sleep and outings, and kind of find that balance that works for you and your child and how they're responding. Because some kids are super sensitive too.
Yeah. And to that end, I know when I hired you, Vincenza, and you said it was 14 days, I made sure, and I think more than anything, these are tips, but the rules that you gave me, they were for me and to get things that I had to do to get my child to sleep. So it was me having to look at my schedule and saying, okay, I can't go to that class this week, or this whole week at nap time, we have to be home. So I did it because I wanted this to work. I wasn't going to pay, this money for it to just be like, just loosey goosey. I wanted this to work because I was so stressed out with my kid not sleeping. So to all those moms wondering, just grin and bear it for 2 weeks until you've established this. And then you can enjoy your life again.
Exactly. Yeah. It takes time, just like anything. It's a skill. That's what you have to look at it. It's a skill.
That's true. Okay. Tip number 3.
Okay. So putting your baby to sleep awake. So, I'm not here to tell anybody that, the way your kid might go to sleep now, is wrong. And if it's working for you, that's wonderful. But truly, when families come to us who are struggling, the way that we resolve their sleep struggles is to advise them to put their child in their crib awake. Okay, so I know that, like, me saying this brings people to say, oh my gosh, they're going to be doing this and my kid's not going to like it.
I never could do it because I never had you when they were in that baby stage. It was nurse them to sleep, quietly put them down, and creep your way out of the room. And I know there are so many of you guys that are in the same boat.
For sure. And you know what? that works honestly until it doesn't, or every day you're just waiting to see what's going to happen, like very, unpredictable days.
Yeah.
But when you aren't coping yourself, or you have a goal set, like you want to work out in the evenings, or you need to go back to work, or someone else needs to watch my child, developing your child to go to sleep awake, which is independently in their cribs, is the ultimate goal that will like work for 90% of families that I help, to get their sleep issues resolved.
Because ultimately you want them as young as possible to learn how to fall asleep on their own, right? And
I do notice the younger you start, the less problems you do have down the line. It's not to say that I can't help, but that you can help older ages, but when you start earlier, you do see faster results as well as longevity too.
Well, that's why I had to turn to you when my toddler was, I forget, was he 2 or 3? I couldn't put him to sleep because I had to lay with him until he fell asleep. That is an hour at 8 p.m. of wasted time because I didn't do it when he was a baby. So yeah. Okay. So give us some tactical ways, whether it's probably easier as they are babies. So let's talk about babies. Give us some tactical ways to put your baby asleep or put them in the crib when they are still awake.
For sure. So depending on the age and what I do, I work with families in a very customized approach. So I really give them details on exactly on how to manage this, but ultimately you do want to support your child. So you won't be abandoning them in any sort of way. I do believe that your child needs to know that you're there for them. So you could be in the room, you could support them, give them some gentle touch, some calm words, very, they can smell you, they can hear you, they know you're there. So I think it's super important to know that you do support your child while they're learning this skill. So they are going to be upset because you're establishing something new and something different that they're not aware of yet, but it will get better over time. But I personally think it's very important that you support your child while they're learning this new skill.
Yeah. And to that end, you're right. It was very customizable because I remember after a few days, I'm like, Vincenza, this is not working. Give me, something else to do to help him to sleep. So yeah, there was a bunch of different things that you were able to give us to.
And toddlers are very different as well, different than babies.
Yes.
So
yes, for sure.
There's not necessarily there might be not the same type of crying, but protest in a way, or stalling tactics, or they want to think of something to keep you there or not let you leave. So we have to find very gentle, guided ways to get them to really learn to love their sleep. Right.
Okay. We're at tip number 4.
Okay. So what makes the putting down awake easier over time is creating a predictable bedtime routine. So when your child knows A, B, C, D, and then E happens is when you're putting them down awake. They are smart. They're so much smarter than we give them credit for. They know as soon as that last step is performed that it's time for them to go to sleep. And the more you do this every night, every time for naps, you do the same things. They are going to learn through predictability and consistency that what it's time to actually do, and protest becomes less, and they actually enjoy their routine. Right. So, bedtime routine shouldn't take more than 45 minutes.
I think this is the easiest. You tell me, do you feel like most of your clients already kind of have a routine, like bath or shower, then, you dry yourself, get your jammies on, make sure you have your water. My kids always have their water. Then we sit and read a book, and then we do prayer time, and then it's bedtime. I find this one's the easiest for me. How about for most of your clients? Do you feel like most of them have kind of established something?
100%. Sometimes I got to change the order for them a little bit. But other than that, every family has been really good, I would say, with, doing things in a way where it's systematic to their family. And I never tell them to, do something that's out of the ordinary. Like if you always end in a prayer, you keep doing that. If you always have bath time every night, then some families don't want to give a bath every night. And I give them alternative ideas on how to do that. So as long as it's, done consistently every night in their own way is truly important.
Right. And the thing that always throws a loop for the kids, when daddy intervenes and when it's crazy fun daddy, and they're all running after each other. And it's like, I'm trying to put them to sleep. I need some quiet and peace. And it's like, oh, sorry. And then I'm left with these hyper kids who just want to play. So for all you dads watching, or I don't know, crazy time, play mom, this is the time to just tone it down a bit.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Or get that all done before bath time.
Yes. Yeah. You know what though? It is really hard. And this kind of plays into role. I think tip number 1 is putting them to sleep at an early bedtime, because I do have some clients whose, spouse comes home later because of work schedules. And then it's the kids want to play with daddy and they want to see daddy and, that kind of thing. So I think that's a challenging one that families need to work through for sure. And like you said, maybe having that daddy time earlier in the day or something.
Yeah, for sure. And some families, mom really loves to do bedtime. Sometimes they like to switch it up. Yeah. It's whatever really works for them. But yeah, definitely like wind down time is important, especially for the older ones.
Right, sure. Right. Okay, tip number 5.
So if your baby wakes up in the middle of the night, it's so important, I shouldn't say important, but it's so innate for us as mothers to rush as soon as they wake up. But sometimes it's just good to stop and listen, give them some time to really, figure themselves out, because a lot of the times if you're doing all the right things, the routines in place, they know where they're sleeping, they're going through a sleep cycle. So they just need to sort of, adjust themselves, get comfortable, and let them go back to sleep. But if we always intervene, you'll never know if they'll do it, and then they'll expect it, which is can create some bad habits down the road.
So how long would you wait?
A few minutes for sure, depending on the age as well.
Yeah.
Definitely 5 minutes, I would say, right. It truly depends on each child and their response and how they're responding. You want to get to a point where it's not about sleep. So if you listen to all these tips and have established them and your kid is a strong sleeper, then when they do wake up, you'll know it's for a reason. So I would never tell you to not go, but just wait and listen to their protest and their crying. And
the hardest thing.
What it could be about. And then our mom guts are the best things ever, really. So when something is wrong, you do and you should go to your child and figure out.
I think the hardest thing is when you have other children in the house and you don't want that baby or that toddler screaming or crying because they're going to wake everybody else up. So that's a tough one. Would you, I guess, depends on the age, depends on the child, but would you recommend shushing them through the baby monitor?
No, not necessarily, because it won't fix anything really. I think it might freak them out in general. Maybe when your kids are older and that's how you want to communicate with them, if they needed something possibly, but I don't recommend it. If this is new things you're establishing that you want to try, I would just talk to the older child and let them know what's happening.
Right.
So then they won't be freaked out about it when it is happening. I would say that's the best thing. It's not a reason to not teach your little one to sleep, because that's another reason too why sometimes I get a lot of families, my first one was such a good sleeper, but not my second one. And that's because maybe they are going to them too quickly to not go to the older child, right?
Wake up the other one. Yeah.
It's really short-term pain for long-term gain, really.
It's true. It's so true. Vincenza, I can totally tell you those 14 days were long 14 days. But we did it. And at the end, we were like, yes, my son is sleeping on his own. And I'm not wasting hours a night trying to put him to sleep.
Do you remember what I said to you? I said, imagine having 3 hours to yourself at night.
It's so true.
That's what I want.
It's so true. And I just remember after putting him to sleep and then going downstairs and being like, oh, I want to eat chocolate or I want to drink some wine because I just am angry and mad and stressed all at the same time. Right? Okay. We're at number 6, the last and final tip.
Yes. So naps are key. So, yes, being out and about and all that stuff that we talked about is totally doable. But once you understand how naps work, they really go hand in hand with nighttime. Because if your child isn't on an age appropriate nap or napping minimum an hour, because anything less than an hour isn't restorative, you'll have a cranky child at bedtime. So kind of really understanding those sweet spots for naps, when they should happen, how long they should be, and making sure your child knows how to go to sleep on their own and go back to sleep, because there is one little sleep cycle in between each nap.
Okay.
Common complaint is my kid doesn't nap for a long time and they wake up at the 30 to 40 minute mark. Well, that's why. It's because of that little sleep cycle. And if they don't know how to go to sleep on their own, then they don't know how to go back to sleep on their own. Mm-hmm. So making sure that they're not too tired, but tired enough to sleep and stay asleep for an optimal nap is really key to having like a good balance to the day.
Right.
Yes.
So important for all of these steps. Awesome. Thank you so much for those. Brings me back to those times. So Vincenza, what is what is the most perfect age, baby age, where moms would call you and be like, I need some sleep help? I don't know if you like to call it sleep training, coaching, consulting, but in the baby stage, because guys, everybody watching, do not do what I did. I just did my own thing and babies were never sleeping through the whole entire night. I waited until they were in daycare, 13, 14 months, until they finally slept on their own all night. But that was me having a whole year plus of nights where I was waking up at least 2-3 times a night. And that is not cool. I talk, about this, and I coach my moms about this. Like, when you're trying to heal diastasis recti, or, after a C-section, or losing weight, it's really hard when you're not getting enough sleep and your stress is through the roof. So what is a really good starting month or age of a baby to start these steps?
I would say anywhere from 4 to 7 months is probably ideal, because, like everyone talks about the 4 to 6 month regression, and using these tips can really help you like get over those regressions so much quicker. And then also your child isn't standing and doing anything major, like they're learning to roll and like all that in between, but so much easier to, like, I would say, manage a baby before they're standing and, getting stronger willed. And, if I had to pick a personal time, is 4 to 7 months.
Okay.
But totally doable. I get families of all ages, really. So
right.
Whenever you're kind of ready. Some kids are amazing sleepers up until 9 months, and then they call like, what happened to my child? And sometimes, what they were doing was working, and then it no longer works.
Right.
So.
Okay, Vincenza, thank you so much for sharing all these. And I know you've got something for all our moms who are pulling their hair out, frustrated and angry because they don't know what else to do. You are offering a 15-minute consultation call to moms who are looking at and kind of investigating what route they should go through. So how do people contact you?
Yes. So you can contact me. You can see me on Instagram at WeSleep_Vincenza. I'm also on Facebook as well.
I'll put all the links down below.
Yes. So the link to my schedule will get you access to these 6 essential sleep tips. Okay. And because you've seen me here on Strong Mom, and if you do choose to work with me in my 14-day coaching program, I will be offering 15% to anyone who needs it as well. So book that call. You'll get these tips. Get to talk with me one-on-one about your situation, and then we could see how we can help change your life in 10 days.
Yes, change your life. I love that. It's so true, right? Oh, awesome. Okay, ladies. So 15% off for the Strong Mom watchers. Vincenza, thank you so much for joining us. And ladies, like I said, if you have any questions, you want to finally start this thing, all the links are down below, how to contact her and how to get yourself rested.
Yes.
We will see you next time. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let her know, I gotta let her know that she my white horse, she my medical, she like my baby mama.